Hi guys, and welcome to season 1, episode 11 of the UK Cowboys TV show. A bit of a new lineup tonight. I don't think you've had us trio together before, so I'm hosting you tonight, and it's Lauren, and I'm joined by the fabulous Graham Wilson and Joe Francis. How you doing, guys?
Yeah, really well.
Good,
thanks.
yeah.
We've got new dad and newlywed with us. So how's life treating everyone? All shipshape, ready to roll?
Yeah, good.
All good. Just ready for that. Hopefully, playoffs. Get in the playoffs.
Oh, that's early.
Oh,
the chat's out already.
Week 2 and Joe's on to Super Bowl already. Look. Well, we couldn't start really any better than what we did, and hopefully, moving on to the Redskins, we can have a bit of the same again. Looking back at the Redskins game last week, what did they? I can't remember what they finished, 27-32 or something. They lost to the Eagles. Probably one of the more surprising games. Certainly the first half, they took it to the Eagles. I don't know if either of you caught any of the game at all.
Yeah, the Eagles seem to fall asleep on themselves. If they could tackle, the first touchdown doesn't happen. And they just seem to fall asleep in the secondary for the second one. But I think it's quite telling that they surrendered a 17-point lead, which is quite unforgivable. I think Gruden will be slightly concerned at that, and it's definitely something to be exploited. I think, if we can get an early lead, bring our run game in, then we should be all right on Sunday.
Yeah, I think Washington are a little bit underrated at the moment. I think Case Keenum's not the most accurate, but he does have a few weapons there, which are a little bit of a concern for me in the upcoming game. Chat about later, but I feel they started strong, Washington, and then I think they got very complacent and just thought they were going to run away with it, and then Philly got their head back in the game and pulled it back, and they're a team to be reckoned with, Philly as well, and they're a big worry of mine going on in the season, big time.
Yeah, I mean the first week the NFC East has kind of pretty much shaped up as we thought, with the Cowboys and Eagles coming away with wins and losses for the Redskins and the Giants. I think probably the biggest news this week for the Redskins are the injuries. Obviously they've lost Darius Geist to I think he's going to have surgery now, or there's talk of it, so it could be pretty hefty. It was a bit of a shocker last week when they made Adrian Peterson inactive. Apparently he didn't go down too well in the camp, but obviously he's going to be the man to come back this week. Do you think he could do any damage? I mean, I think I wrote it down. They had ridiculously low number of rushing yards last week, 28 rushing yards against the Eagles, but that's an area we've obviously struggled in, I think, in recent games. Do you think AP can bring it to us? Or?
For me, no. I think our defence is too strong. They don't have the standout players that we're going to cause like double coverage, I don't think. I think there might be one, again, which I'll mention later on when we're chatting about our standout players that we might have to think about, but I think our defence, that linebacker crew, are going to absolutely destroy any hope of him doing 100 yards. Yeah, it's just I can't see it. I really can't.
Yeah, I mean that offensive line is. I think in the preview, I think it was Brian Gaynor suggested that I would be able to play in their offensive line. I'm not sure if it's flattering or not, but they've got 36-year-old Donald Penn lining up in place of their many a time a Pro Bowler, Trent Williams, who's holding out. Donald Penn was good in his day, but he's 36 years old. They signed him off the street. I mean, Marcus Lawrence has got to eat him up, hasn't he?
Yeah, Father Time's going to definitely caught up there, isn't it, really? That's it. It's a second-rate O-line, isn't it, really? It's practice squad style. They're just not going to have the defence, and that's what we need to keep up on Case Keenum. We need to keep that pressure on him so he gets a bit flustered, and that's when he's not the most accurate. So that's, I think, our key to winning that game is keeping him on his toes.
Yeah. The Cowboys have only lost once in the last 5 to the Redskins. We did lose last year, didn't we, in a close game, 3 points we lost by. The others have all been pretty hefty wins. Is it going to be as easy as week 1 for us, Graham?
Probably not. I think to put it bluntly, I think the Giants are a bit of a train wreck at the moment, despite their running game. I think Adrian Peterson, maybe not get the yardage that he used to, but I think the fundamentals are still there. Doesn't put the ball on the ground. He can still catch. He can still be an effective player around, particularly in the last 10 in the red zone. So I don't think it's going to be as much as a walk in the park. But I think so long as our offensive line turns up again, as long as we can get Zeke going, the defense doesn't really have to keep us in the game. But I think if we can open up a lead, I don't see the Redskins catching us. I think they were 32-27, kind of. It's a bit unfair on the Eagles, to be quite honest. I think they got caught cold. I think I'm not gonna give too much praise to the Redskins, particularly watching the highlights. But it's games like this where we've seen the Cowboys struggle. Complacency sneaks in. All it takes is one turnover or a missed opportunity in the red zone. Before you know it, AP discovers a little bit of form and breaks 1 or 2 tackles, and it can open the game back up again. So I think so long as we stay switched on and the linebackers are up to their usual standard, we should be okay. We should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that week 1 wasn't an utter fluke by the Cowboys offense, and it was, we all assumed it was not quite an off day for our D, but they didn't kind of like feast in the way we expected. They should bury the Redskins in this game. If you look at them on paper, I don't think they have any identity, in terms of what their game's all about. But like you say, you're exactly right. I agree with it's been a bit of an issue for the Cowboys previously these games, and too often I think hopefully it was a Linehan thing and it's not going to carry on. We're leaving games, maybe just with a 3-point win, and hopefully we can carry on like last week and take it to them. What about our players to watch? Who have we got in terms of the Redskins on the offensive side of the ball? Who stands out for you or stood out last week?
Big time for me, Terry McLaurin. I think his surname's one of the ones I nabbed off you, Lauren, in fantasy, actually. He's done really well. 3rd round rookie, 4.3 speed. I think he did over 125 yards receiving, 5 receptions, and got his touchdown. And looking at him, it's just a speed guy. So he's one that I was going to say possibly think about double coverage. I think he's one of our biggest threats. Him and their slot receiver, Trey Quinn, bit like Beasley, quite elusive. I think we really need to kind of keep an eye on, keep them out of the game for as much as possible. And that's going to be our key to winning, I feel, against those two. Case Keenum, again, like I said, I don't feel he's the most accurate quarterback. So it's just that deep ball. As long as we can get the D-Law, we can get the rushing in, keep him on his toes. He's not going to be able to do those accurate passes. And hopefully that means our offence is going to be able to do its usual long drives, draw out the clock, work it really well. Nice, smart win for us. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
I know Terry McLaurin was actually a big favourite for the Cowboys in the draft. They looked quite closely at him. So certainly one to watch, and he might have something to say if he's aware of how much the Cowboys liked him. What about you, Graham? There's not really much to choose from, particularly, is there, on the offensive side of the Redskins?
This is the thing, this is what gives Cowboys fans and Eagles fans so much hope going into these games, because they really don't have much blue chip talent. Just looking at their stats from last week, you'd have to consider maybe Chris Thompson and Vernon Davis, But just those two names in particular, it seems very, 10 yards, 5 yards, check down, get rid of the ball type stuff, which plays right into our linebacker core. I think, our guys, they can both catch, particularly if we can keep David. I mean, he's still a big guy. I mean, I say the Eagles can't tackle, but he shook off those tackles. He still knows where the end zone is. So I think so long as Van Der Esch and Smith, I've got them in check, and we can keep a lid on McLaurin. I think Darius Geis is going to be a big miss for them. He was actually one of the Redskins I considered drafting. Got him in one or two leagues. So that's gonna be a sore one for my teams. But Chris Thompson and Vernon Davis I'm going to highlight. So long as we can keep them, close on third down situations, and we can get out of fourth and all that kind of stuff, and turn the ball back over. 125 yards, but you've got to remember one of that was a long bomb. If you cover properly, maybe it doesn't happen. But it really is tough to find some blue chip talent on that team. I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but is there a first round talent in that team? I don't know. I don't think there is.
No. Certainly on the defensive side of the ball, they've lost Jonathan Allen for a few games. He's probably he was a first rounder, wasn't he? Was it about 3-4 years ago? Big boy up the middle. They've lost him, and their defense is arguably their biggest strength. So, is there anyone on the Redskins D that you're particularly looking at?
For me, it's got to be that man that we all know his name, Josh Norman. It has to be him getting in our younger guys, wide receivers' heads. A lot of people think he's very arrogant, smart player, and how he gets people frustrated, and then it just gets their psyche off what they're meant to be doing and more in having a row with him. If he has his day, I think he can cause issues with our wide receiver core, but I'm hoping they're a bit smarter than that and they can just shake that off. But some of these American guys do have that big ego and they want to have that row back and forward, and I think that could be a little bit of a worry for me.
Anyone for you, Graham?
Yeah, I would just mirror, what Joe said there. I think there's only so much he can do. If we can get our running game going and if we can spread the ball around the bit a little bit, they may take away Coop. They may take away it, but we've got plenty of talent on the other side of the field. You can only do so much. But yeah, I think what Joe says makes a lot of sense. If he can start putting them off their stride a little bit and all that kind of stuff, he's been there, done it for some time now. So not a great. I think I'm looking at their injury report just now. Allen and Brantley, that's a big miss on the offensive line. There's only so much the corners can do in the run game. On the defensive line, only so much the corners can do for that, and I think if we can get Zeke going, some play action might open up the wide receivers. As long as we can get that in early, we should be fine.
Yeah, and talk about the injury report with R1. Tavon's really the only one who's he might be a bit iffy for the weekend. He's out with concussion-like symptoms, I think they're saying. I know today in practice, Cedric Wilson's actually been doing the return game, but obviously we'd have to lose someone, I guess, on the roster to get him in. I did mention it last week briefly about Randall Cobb. Obviously, you've probably watched him more than most of us, Graham, with your dad being a Packer.
Yeah.
And I think, certainly for me, he showed up a lot more last week than perhaps I was expecting. He looked a lot more physical than what I'd ever really seen or thought of. So I just wondered your thoughts on Cobb, really.
No, I think initial thoughts is that I've been a little bit harsh on Randall Cobb, to be quite honest. I think being in a more balanced offense has really helped. I know the Packers, they kind of chopped and changed between their running backs, and it wasn't really happening for the running game. And You've got the wide receiver, his name escapes me at the moment, Devontae Adams. You've got Adams on one side, who probably draws double coverage, and then you've got Cobb, AN other. They seem to just churn out the receivers, the Packers. So he had a huge effect to get in the Giants game, and he ran through tackles and all that kind of stuff. It's almost as if it's given him a new lease of life. And I'll be more than happy to eat my words if he comes up with 600-700 yards this season. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, definitely. Who's kind of like stood out then? Who's your man to watch on the offense for the Cowboys in this game?
It's got to be Zeke Elliott. Still got to be Zeke Elliott. I think kind of stunted a little bit against the Giants, but that's no surprise, seeing as he's had 5 minutes to look at the playbook. I think with their defensive line in a little bit of a sore spot at the moment, particularly away from home. If we can get the running game going, quiet the crowd, chew up the clock, it strikes of 2016, 2017 when we used to get 10-point leads and just eat the game. It would just burn away. So I'm going to highlight Zeke Elliott. I think for him to get back in the end zone and over 100 yards, we'll soon forget about the preseason and everything's rosy again, as they say.
It's nice to see Zeke. What about you, Joe? Who's your Cowboys offensive man?
As taken Zeke, I've got to go with Dak. The boys put in some work in the off season. It's quite clear. I know he's got his haters. It's a very split fan base on that. But come on, last game you've got to give him his credit there. His footwork was impeccable. His deep pass, we always say it whenever we watch a game and he throws a deep pass. Oh, he can't deep pass, can he? He's just improved tenfold. I think Kellen's given him maybe that bit more confidence with the play calling now, things opening up, and he seems that last game we seem to play a bit more to his strengths rather than the old Scott Linehan's kind of run first. I think teams are now going to be a Dallas a run first team, or we can throw it. We have got the receivers to play. Are they going to then think about, do we set up slightly different? Does that then take some pressure off? I don't know, but I do think he's improved vastly, and I'm hoping this season he gets some of these haters to eat their words and become cream of the crop. And well, he is our franchise quarterback. There's no doubt about it. But I'm just hoping that some of these haters do say, yeah, hands up, I was wrong about him.
No, I think you'd have to go some for them to do that. Yeah, I think certainly. I think what Kittner's done with him, technically, he just looked immensely different in the pocket. I mean, obviously, yeah, it was the Giants, but he just looked so much more comfortable in there. You can get happy feet sometimes, can't he? But there wasn't any of that. There was a couple of like planned runs, but it looked a lot better.
And the confidence in him and Witten in the huddle, smiling and joking together near the end of their game. Obviously, if it was a bit closer, I wouldn't have liked that. I would have liked the more professional side, but it's nice to see him. I think when he's like that and he's having fun is when he plays his best, and it's back to that 2016 style of absolutely just enjoying himself out there, and that's where I think he truly is at his best.
Yeah, and I think with Kellen Moore, it's obviously his playbook is going to be completely new to the other team, so we've got that as a bit of an advantage certainly early on in the season. Possible we could see a bit more Pollard used in the passing game. I think perhaps people expected a bit more of that last week. Maybe with Tavon out, we might see that a little bit more with Pollard. What about on the flip side then, on defense? Who's our man? I mean, who's going to have to be our standout guy? I mean, I suppose we're not really expecting anyone to have to play insanely well against this Redskins team, but you want a better defensive performance than last week, I think.
The one player I want to go kind of out the norm of not Elvit E or Jalen or any of those. Chidobe against, he got drug tested for covering Barkley. I mean, that says something, doesn't it? And I mean, I watched the game back and had a look at some of his plays, and I don't want to say he had him in his pocket, but he was all over Barkley. You could tell that that was his task. That's what he was aiming to do. And for me, outperformed himself. I really didn't expect it from him. Seems to have gone up a good few levels in my books, and he's one player I'm really looking forward to see the next few games to see if he can keep that level up. And I think it's really exciting to have so many young guys at different rounds that they were selected to be performing at such a high level, and it's so refreshing to see that. And it's not the same old kind of veterans that we've picked up off waiver wire or whatnot trying to go in. It's so exciting to have these young guys, and they're all bonding together. I mean, you've got the Purge squad, you've got Hot Boys. I think it's just, it just makes watching football so much more fun.
Yeah, I think 6 months ago we were probably all crying out for several new players in the secondary, but Chris Richard has really done something with the lads we've got. What about you, Graham? Who's your defensive man to watch for the Cowboys this week?
Defensively, I'd like to see the D-line shut down the run a little bit more. I think you kind of give them a pass because it's Saquon Barkley they're dealing with, but he did go for 120 yards. Some of that might have been junk time off the top of my head. I'm not really too sure. Maybe a sack or two out of them as well. I'm not going to pick on anybody in particular. I think just as a unit, I would like to see them shut down a little bit more, because I think the run game a little bit more, because I think that's the only way the Redskins are really going to hurt us. If they can open up the run, it opens up their play action, and then they can get over the top of us, and that's when you start talking about McLaurin. So if we can keep things nice and tight up front, bring our linebackers down on top, load the box, force Keenum into mistakes. That's really going to open things up for us, and it just depends. Hopefully, it just depends who gets to Keenum first. Off the top of my head, maybe a sack out of Lawrence would be good. But he's going to be the guy that's got the tight end on his side, gets chipped and blocked, double teamed and all that kind of stuff. So they're going to take away our positives. So not going to pick on anybody in particular, but just if the D-line could get to Keenum, that would please me quite a bit.
Yeah, I think so. And also, we've been absolutely gashed in terms of run yards the last, few games. And I think, we've got on a really nice opening schedule. So we've had the Giants, we've got the Skins, we've got next the Dolphins, and then our season starts. We need to be walking away in a good position. And if we can tighten up that weakness at the moment of allowing all those rushing yards, I think it will serve us in good stead going forward. We've had a couple of questions in the mailbag which kind of relate back to the defense. First of all, are we seeing the end of Taco's time in Dallas? That was from Rich. I know there's been talk this week. Brian Broadus was on, I think I saw it on Twitter. He said how there's trade talks with a particular team, and Taco, he threw a 5th round pick in the air. He thinks it would be for that. Certainly, it doesn't seem to be boding well for Taco, does it, at the moment?
No, and when you look at his social media account, he's not the most professional. He can seem a little bit like the child that you've said, no, you can't have an ice cream, and he's just very toys out the pram when he doesn't get his way. He's made it quite clear he's not part of the Hot Boys. He seems a little bit bitter about that to me. I'm just wondering if he's kind of like the bad apple that's kind of rotting a few others, a bit cancerous in the locker room. I'm wondering if it's a bit like that. Whether or not he goes, obviously he gave a good performance week 1. Hopefully that brings in the suitors a little bit more. It's that age-old saying, Cowboys saying, next man up. Kerry Hyder, Dorrance Armstrong. I think it'd be great to get them in a bit more, get them playing. If that is the case, I wouldn't be gutted. I'm sure most of the fan base wouldn't be gutted if we lost him. I think most people would be quite happy to be honest, for him to go. Would be my
I mean, we've got Robert Quinn due back, haven't we, after this game? So, in theory, it would be Taco out and Quinn in. That's not a bad...
you kind of wonder whether they know anything more about Gregory with this Taco move, whether they've heard something that's not been released yet. You wonder along that, but that's obviously quite a bit of speculation. But it could be something that's possibly in the pipeline. His reinstatement. So,
are you shedding any tears, Graham, over Taco if he goes?
Well, regular listeners to the podcast will know that I was delighted with his pre-season performance in one particular game. You can't win them all. I think particularly in the first round, our front office has done especially well, with picking the right talent and spending it. Towards the tackle pick, you just kind of felt like, to get a blue chip pass rusher, you're looking at the higher end of the draft. I'm not saying they kind of jumped at it, but they realised that, as most teams do, the game's won and lost in the trenches effectively. If you can control the ball on one side of the line of scrimmage, you're halfway to winning the game. So with Taco, you just want to give him a firework up the backside sometimes, and they get to the stage where, you know what, son, if you don't want to play here, then we've got plenty of other guys waiting in the wings to come in and do your job for you. So he won't be on peanuts. Being a first round pick, he'll be on decent money, and they've already given so much to DeMarcus Lawrence, and it's getting to contract time with Taco. Yes, I'm just looking at his stats now. This is his third season, so next year you start talking about, fifth round option and all that kind of stuff. And if somebody's willing to give us a bit of, fourth, fifth, whatever they're talking about, just allows us to do that tiny little bit more in the draft next year. So if he doesn't want to put the work in, and I'm sure Marinelli's pushing him every day, and if Rod Marinelli can't get something out of you, then, maybe it's just you're better off somewhere else. Yeah.
I mean, I've always got the feeling with Taco, he acts like the world owes him something, and I'm not sure we do, really. Someone posted online today the teams that Taco was brought in for a 30-man visit. So there was the Saints, the Dolphins, the Bucks, the Skins, and the Lions. So, I mean, take the Saints out of that, if assuming it, it could be one of those teams, if they liked him before, could like him again. He's not really drawing the big boys in, is he? I mean, Dolphins would make sense in terms of what their needs are, because their needs are everywhere. But yeah, watch this space.
When you talk about big boys, you talk about teams that have a pass rush. It's one of the keys to winning a game. So if you've got an established pass rush, you're not talking about Taco Charlton. He's the kind of guy where you bring him in for, all the guaranteed money's paid by the Cowboys, and if it works out for a 6th round pick, then you're laughing. But to spend a 5th or 6th on Taco it's not for every team. You're looking at filling a hole with Taco Charlton at this stage. You're not looking to bring him in to compete.
No,
not on those stats.
No, definitely not. So let's wrap it up with our predictions then for the Redskins. You can give me a score, you can give me a stat, your first touchdown score. I know, Joe, you like a little flutter now and again.
I'm going to go with a Witten touchdown again. It was great to see him back on the field. It was so nice to see him there, and for him to be there with not a big ego, like he's coming back in being like, I'm tight end number one, I'm going to play that. You can see when he was doing his interviews, he was saying that he's there to help the younger guys develop. I do think he's going to do really well again for us. Final season, hopefully we can get him that ring this season, but I'm going to have a little flutter on Witten again for first.
What about you, Graham? What are you going for this week?
Just to touch on what Joe said there, Jason Witten isn't the fastest in the world. We all know that, but especially in and around the red zone, he knows what that is. He must just digest the playbook so well. He will find that 5-yard hole and just sit in it. It doesn't have to be the breakneck speed that he was anymore, especially around the red zone. So I think he's going to be a really useful talent this year. Some say, he's coming out of the booth because he doesn't like it and he wants to get one last shot. But if he scores a touchdown every second game, absolutely, sign me up for some of that. On predictions, I'm going to go with a scoreline of 24-10 Dallas. I can see our run game coming out early, opens up the play action, and just like old times, we'll eat the clock in the third and fourth quarter. Confidence is high in the group. If our offense doesn't show up, the defense might show up, and special teams can chip in as well. We're in a good situation where one side of the ball can lean on the other, because it's not going to be the high flying offense every week. Sometimes our defense is going to dig out a hole, but I fully expect them to dig them out that hole. And like I said, confidence is high, and if Zeke gets going back to full strength, then our run game can take grasp of a lot of teams and not let go. Just suffocate them. Really, really exciting times for the run game at the moment.
Do either of you think that we'd put Cooper back into the game if we start to walk away with it? Do you think they're going to take Dak out again and put Rush in?
Maybe if it was late on again, but
it's going to be 4, isn't it? If that does, I'm wondering whether that's going to be a bit of a running theme if we do start to walk away with a lot of these games, that they're now protecting Dak a bit more. I don't think he needs all of the snaps, and it's good to get some more of these rotation guys in. But is it a great thing for the team? I don't know. I'm not too sure what I'm getting at here. Sorry, just going off.
No, I think what you're saying is you want to take Dak out and not have to put the weight of the game on his shoulders all the time. It was going back a few years. It was like when Tony Romo had DeMarco Murray. He could let Murray, chew at the game. He didn't have to be the guy all the time. And I think that's what we have to watch with Zeke Elliott. Lauren touched on it earlier on in the podcast about Tony Pollard. If we can get Pollard 10 carries a game, that takes weight off a bell cow back that we've signed up for the next 8 years. So if we can get Pollard going, it does mean we can take Dak out of the game and just let our run game chew up the clock and keep guys fresh and not have them being hurried in a closing pocket and all that kind of stuff. It lets them sit with Kellen Moore and digest what's happening, what is working, what isn't working, and so on. So if we can get Pollard into the game, it means that we're balanced, and balanced teams do well because you're not leaning on one side of the ball. So I totally get what you mean with that. You don't want to have the weight of the game on them for 17 weeks.
And there's so much, obviously being the Cowboys quarterback, there's so much limelight on you, and you're just criticised so much under the microscope, and so many people are so critical. And you look at his stats, and you say about his stats, and then other fans will just be like, oh, it's just stats. And then you're like, well, look at him in the game. And you can never win that argument with other fan bases around our quarterback that I feel other quarterbacks for other teams get a lot of praise for. Dak always seems to get the kind of brunt end of the deal. And to be fair, the same with Romo. I think it's just being America's team and just hated by so many other fan bases that negativity is always thrown out. And I think Dak's pretty thick skin that he can brush most of that negativity off, to be fair.
Yeah, I think he's pretty chilled out, isn't he, about it all. My guy last week who didn't get a touchdown and let down my double bet actually was Michael Gallup. So I'm going for him this week, and I reckon the defense are going to bounce back because it sounds like they were really pissed with the game that they had last week. So I fancy them to go and eat up some Redskins linemen.
Did either of you see the clip of Rashad with Van Der Esch and Jalen on the sidelines screaming and shouting at them?
Oh.
Two big guys just sitting there being like, Yeah, just like not round back, looking a bit shy and coy. I think it's great. I love to see that passion in any form of sport, and it's just going to promote, I think, excel those guys. And I generally think if you were to sit them down over a dinner table and ask what they think of Rashad, I think they've absolutely got to love it. The way his passion has got to be infectious for those other players.
Definitely. Well, hopefully our positivity will be infectious on the Cowboys, and Mike will be back next Tuesday with some guys. I'm not sure. It could be you guys. It could be anyone else within the crew. Hopefully talking about a massive victory and probably talking about Super Bowl, just like Joe started off with earlier tonight.
Lots of time.
So thanks for joining me. We have got Graham Wilson and Joe Francis, and we shall be back next week. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye.
Go Cowboys.